This is a diagram of the fifth pentacle of Mercury from the Greater Key of Solomon, as translated by McGregor Mathers. I am going to be explaining how it works, and why it works. I am Dave, the Amateur Magus. On this channel I talk all about the mechanics behind ceremonial magic, occultism, esotericism, and the mechanics behind everything you can find within a dusty old grimoire. On today's episode, I will be explaining how a fair number of the pentacles in the Greater Key of Solomon work. If you enjoy this video, please subscribe and please share it around with people you think might enjoy it. If you really enjoy this video, please subscribe down in the Patreon link down in the description, where patrons get access to exclusive content, early content, and the Occultic Manual series, a monthly write-up which is about a facet of the occult that I decided to talk about for the month of November, covering angelic evocation and talking about various angels that you would want to evoke and going over how to evoke them if that is your inclination. So, let's get into the video. So, the Pentacles of Solomon are going to be in the Greater Key of Solomon, and they're going to be in three categories. There's going to be simple, which are made primarily with god names, spirit names, and prayers, with generally fairly generic geometric designs inside, but they look very cool. There are complex, which are made of scried characters or characters from places that I'm just not familiar with. I could not find them and I could not source them, but some of these I could source, so that's why I'm putting them in the complex pile. And images. These are going to be artistic renditions of an image that is used to empower the talisman. Now, for those of you wondering, the talismans are going to work, broadly speaking, because the various different powers and the various different prayers that are inscribed upon them, along with the god names that are inscribed upon the various different pentacles, are going to be infused, and they're going to call down divine power to do a particular thing. That is what these pentacles are all going to do. The effects are going to differ wildly, and these are going to be why we have such radically different designs. In fact, in these three categories, only two of them actually fit in the images category, but they share some specific elements with various other pentacles, so let's look at those first. The two pentacles with images on them are going to be the fifth pentacle of Mars and the first pentacle of the Sun. Now, these are going to share some very similar elements. There's going to be a prayer around them, usually from the Book of Psalms, but not always, and it's usually going to be in Hebrew. However, if we look at the first pentacle of the Sun, this is going to have Latin on it. This is, if I remember correctly, the only one with Latin on it in the entirety of the Greater Key, which makes it a little bit of an oddity in the Greater Key of Solomon overall. These two are going to be a scorpion and an image of God specifically. Now, these are going to be for terrifying demons for the Pentacle of Mars and getting spirits to obey with the Pentacle of the Sun. Now, these two are going to be the most complex design-wise, but they're actually the simplest in terms of what they're doing. They're just inspiring fear and reverence, respectively. Now, when it comes to other pentacles in the Greater Key, you're going to find that the pentacles are going to be doing very different things. And I've split them into two remaining categories, which are going to be complex and simple. Now, simple pentacles are going to be like the fifth pentacle of Mercury that I showed at the very beginning. However, complex are going to be in two different categories, which is I can't source the symbols, and complex geometric designs, which is going to be on the Pentacle of Venus, the fourth Pentacle of Venus specifically. This would be a complex design. It's got a much more complex and in-depth geometric symbols, and these symbols are in particular arrangements. Now, let's look at the fifth pentacle of Mercury real quick, and we are going to explain how this works. The fifth pentacle of Mercury works like this. Around the edge of the pentacle is a prayer for some 24/7, which is the exact amount of time that you want your talismans to be working, 24/7. It is broken up into four different sections with the two lines going through it, and it is going to create four different sections in the center. The four different sections are going to have El, Ab, and Yod-He, Vav-He, and those are the four sections. Those are individual god names by themselves in certain places. Yah, El, Ab are all going to be individual god names, and Yod-He, Vav-He is a full god name in and of itself, but it's broken up into two due to the structure of the pentacle. These god names are empowering the psalm verse, which is in turn activating, and this is why the pentacle functions as it does, because you are bringing this power of the psalm verse, you are empowering it using the god names, and this is how effectively every single talisman in the Greater Key functions. It doesn't matter if it's one of the simple talismans, it doesn't matter if it's one of the complex talismans. It is god names empowering psalm verses, and psalm verses commanding and empowering spirits to do the job that the talisman is constructed for. Even in this example with the third pentacle of the sun, it's still going to be the same. There are 12 Yod He Vav's He's, but they're still powering the psalm verse around the pentacle, and vice versa. This is a mutual feedback loop. In the second pentacle of Venus, it is a similar story. The only difference here is that there is, in addition to god names, a broken up name of a spirit, which is similar to a lot of other pentacles. Now, they're going to all have spirit names, except for the ones that look like this. Several of the pentacles in the Greater Key just have this kind of configuration where it is 8 spokes of a wheel, and they just kind of go around and have symbols on the ends. The rest of this video will just be me explaining what these symbols may or may not be, depending on the pentacle in question. That being said, we're just going to examine this one. Now, this is the first pentacle of Jupiter, and according to the grimoire, it says that this is for contacting the spirits of Jupiter, and it served to invoke those, especially those names written around the pentacle. Now, the names written around the pentacle are going to be various angel names, and they're going to be written in Hebrew. So far, this is fairly standard and par for the course. That being said, this is also where you can invoke a Lord of Treasures, and it might be interesting to figure out what is actually on this pentacle so we know how to invoke this kind of stuff in the future, right? Well, if we look around the pentacle, those characters are similar, but they are not specifically referenced in other places. Notably, this one. This is going to be very similar to a particular seal, the seal of Saturn from Agrippa. Now, this is going to be similar, and you might notice that these are, all over this pentacle are various things from the geomantic figures in Agrippa, specifically Acquisitio, as well as other various figures. Now, unfortunately, I don't have a full list of all of the geomantic figures and all of the symbols and where they come from that are on the Greater Key. That being said, it is also possible that they were scryed, and if they were scryed, that means that they were kind of more automatic writing style drawn, and then they were turned into the pentacles themselves. Now, if they were scryed or something similar to that, it would indicate that, yes, you would actually need to scry your own talismans and the like. So what can we use this information for, knowing that we can kind of modify, if we're using that first pentacle of Jupiter as a baseline, what can we do in order to make our talismans more effective? Well, we can use the symbols that are in Agrippa, including the geomantic figures, to make those wheel spokes, and we can add the appropriate god names. And if we use that with the appropriate psalm verse and do that with what we're trying to use, if we do everything correctly and we match our correspondences correctly, we can actually make our own talismans in the same style as the Greater Key. Now, I am not going to assist anyone in doing this because talisman construction is an absolute pain in the ass. That being said, I am just giving you guys another example. You could theoretically use this to add your own particular sigils and add your own particular geomantic correspondences, or you can just do what I usually do of make a circle, write a psalm on the circle, write a psalm verse on around the circle, on the inside put correspondent things, and from there you're good to go. However, this is what they were doing in the past, and so I figured I would go ahead and I would deconstruct how they work a little bit. So yeah, hopefully you guys learned something. I have been Dave the Amateur Magus. Hope you enjoyed this video. Hope you guys are having a good day. If you're not having a good day, hope your day gets better. Take it easy.